You're listening to From Stillness, an audiobook for a mind in need of quiet. Your brain is trying to protect you. That's where it all begins. It scans for danger, runs simulations, rehearses possible disasters. Not because something is wrong, but because something might be. And so it does what it thinks is helpful. It worries. But worry is not wisdom. It's your mind running mental push-ups for imaginary problems. It's a form of preparation that rarely leads to peace. Like a smoke detector that goes off at every shadow, your mind sounds alarms for things that aren't happening. Not now. Maybe never. You've probably felt it, that low hum of anxiety as you imagine a conversation that hasn't occurred. That tension in your chest from a deadline that's still weeks away. You spend hours living in a 10-minute moment that hasn't even arrived. And in doing so, you trade the only moment that's real, this one, for a version of life that exists only in your head. Worry loves to make itself feel useful. It dresses up like responsibility. It pretends to be preparation. But at its core, worry is just energy spent on problems that aren't here yet and may never come. And still, your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It responds to imagined danger with real tension. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tighten, your attention narrows. You brace for impact that never arrives. And when it doesn't, you don't feel relief, you just find the next thing to worry about. That's the cost. Not just time, but attention. Not just peace, but presence. Worry doesn't make you safer, it just makes you tired. And the truth is, you don't need to mentally live through every potential problem before it happens. You only need to be alive and available when it does, and most of the time, it never will. The question isn't, what if it goes wrong? The question is, what am I missing by worrying now? Imagine your mind as a ship at sea, surrounded not by water, but by time. Behind you, the waves of yesterday. Ahead, the vast uncertainty of tomorrow. And here, beneath your feet, the only thing that keeps you afloat. Today. Most of us live with our mental doors wide open. Thoughts from the past seep in. Imagined futures pour through. Before long, we're sinking under the weight of timelines that don't belong to this moment. We're not drowning because of what's happening. We're drowning because we've failed to seal the compartments. This is what Dale Carnegie called the practice of daytight compartments, the art of living one day at a time with intentional boundaries. Like a submarine with watertight doors, your mind can stay afloat even under pressure. If you learn to close what isn't needed right now. When you live in today, truly live in it, you start to feel lighter. Because today on its own is manageable. You don't live a week or a month or a life. You live a moment, a breath, a single decision at a time. Problems grow enormous only when we stack them together. But separated by time, by sealed mental doors, they become what they really are. Small, solvable, temporary. Try this. When your mind spirals into tomorrow, gently close the door. Say to yourself, not today. When regrets from yesterday knock for attention, answer with kindness, but do not let them in. Say, I've already lived that day. You can only act, respond, or breathe inside the container of now. Everything else, the memories, the forecasts, the hypotheticals, is noise that doesn't belong in today's room. And when you finally learn to seal the doors, you discover something unexpected. Stillness isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. One daytight compartment at a time. Peace doesn't come from having control. It comes from knowing what not to control. Your mind was trained, perhaps by fear, perhaps by habit, to try and manage everything. You scan conversations for hidden meanings. You rehearse outcomes. You worry about what they think, how they'll react, what might happen. But here's the quiet truth. Much of what you worry about was never yours to hold. There is a simple mental matrix, 2 columns, 1 quiet revolution. On one side, the things you can control, your words, your actions, your attitude. On the other, everything else. The weather, the past, other people's choices, the thoughts in someone else's mind. And yet we spend so much of our precious energy trying to rearrange the second column. As if worry could rewrite the past. As if overthinking could rewrite someone else's opinion. As if resistance could make reality kinder. But it doesn't. It only makes you more tired. When you begin to draw this line, clearly, compassionately, your mind exhales. You stop trying to steer the unsteerable. You reclaim the attention that was scattered across what-ifs and if-onlys. And that attention, it becomes fuel for presence, clarity, calm. It's not about indifference, it's about direction. You shift from fighting life to working with it, from managing outcomes to mastering your response. Try this. Next time you feel anxious, ask yourself, is this something I can control? If yes, take one small action. If no, practice gentle letting go. It's not easy, but it's honest. And in honesty, there's power. Because freedom isn't found in controlling everything. It's found in finally releasing what was never yours to carry. Anxiety is a form of time travel, not the kind that takes you to the past or future in body, but the kind that carries your mind away from now. And the further it travels, the harder it becomes to return. You think you're preparing. You think you're being responsible. But what's really happening is this. Your mind is standing in today, holding the weight of 1,000 possible tomorrows, using the fears of yesterday as fuel. The signal is weak, the connection unstable, and yet you stay logged in, buffering your way through the moment. Meanwhile, life is here. Quiet. Waiting. Asking nothing of you except your presence. But you're not here, not fully. You're mentally inside a conversation that hasn't happened, a diagnosis you haven't received, a mistake you haven't made. You're arguing with ghosts, negotiating with shadows, hoping that worry will protect you from what hasn't arrived. It won't. Every moment you're afraid of, if it ever does come, will arrive in one way only, as another present moment. And you will meet it then, not now. Worry does not prepare you. It only wears you down before the real work begins. The irony is that in trying to avoid pain, we abandon peace. We forfeit the one moment we do have, this breath, this heartbeat, in exchange for an illusion of control. But you can choose to come back. Right now. Not in theory, but in practice. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the room around you. This is where you live. Not in the next hour. Not in the next crisis. Here. Time travel ends when you return to your body. And when you do, you realize, life was never asking you to carry the future. It was asking you to notice the present. Every worry is a question. But not every question deserves an answer. When anxiety rises, it often disguises itself as usefulness, asking, what if, 100 different ways. But behind each of those questions is a simple choice, one that most of us avoid without realizing. Can I do something about this right now? Yes or no? This is the decision tree, a quiet structure, a mental filter. If the answer is yes, act. Send the message. Set the boundary. Make the plan. If the answer is no, accept. Let the thought pass through. Return to the moment. No endless loops. No overthinking, just clarity. But somewhere along the way, we created a third option, the loop. We think about it. Then think again. Then revisit it later. We circle it like a bird over a place we never land. It feels like preparation, but it's just delay. It feels like caring, but it's just mental noise. Your brain becomes cluttered, like a desktop full of open tabs, none in use, all demanding attention. And the real problem isn't the content, it's the indecision, the unwillingness to act or release. Try this. When worry shows up, don't entertain it automatically. Ask the question, is this actionable? If it is, do the smallest next step. If it's not, say, not mine to solve right now. And return. This isn't avoidance, it's discernment. Because peace doesn't require everything to be okay, it only requires knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't. And over time, this becomes more than a technique. It becomes trust. Trust in your ability to act when needed, and trust in life to unfold without your constant rehearsal. Anxiety lives in the mind, but peace lives in the body. When your thoughts begin to spiral, your breath shortens, your shoulders tense, your chest tightens. You feel like you're floating just above your own life, not grounded, not present, not safe. And in that moment, no amount of thinking will bring you back. But your senses can. The five senses are like anchors. They don't argue. They don't forecast. They simply remind you, you're here, right now, fully. What can you see? What can you hear? What do your hands feel? What scents are in the air? What's the taste in your mouth? These are not distractions, they are gateways, touch points with reality. When your attention returns to the body, the mind softens its grip. Worry loses its momentum because it can't survive in direct contact with the now. You don't need special equipment. You don't need an app. You don't need a plan. You already have everything required to return. The texture of a table, the sound of your own breath, the sunlight on the floor. These moments are not insignificant. They are sacred. Try this. Next time your thoughts begin to race, pause, and name one thing from each sense. Let your awareness settle into sensation, not to escape life, but to enter it. This isn't bypassing your emotions. It's coming home to the only place emotions can actually be felt and released, your body. And when you practice this often enough, something begins to shift. You stop chasing peace like it's somewhere far away and start discovering it in places you've always had access to. Right here, right now. Through the senses that never left you. Worry often feels personal, urgent, unique to this exact moment. But if you pause long enough to look closely, you'll see something familiar behind the mask. Repetition. The same themes return, just in different costumes. The fear of being misunderstood becomes the fear of failing at work. The fear of loss becomes the fear of change. The fear of not being enough wears 1,000 names. And yet, beneath it all, it's the same voice, the same pattern, replaying through time. That's why conducting a worry audit is so powerful. It transforms vague overwhelm into something observable, tangible, nameable. And what can be named can begin to lose its power. Try this. Take a moment to write down your current worries. Not to fix them, just to see them. Then ask, have I felt this fear before? Is this a new concern or an old wound in disguise? Has this worry actually helped me in the past, or just drained me? What you'll find, more often than not, is that your mental loops are just that, loops. Familiar stories playing on autopilot, convincing you that they're essential when really they're habitual. And this realization is not shameful, it's freeing. Because when you see the pattern, you can step outside it. You're no longer inside the storm. You're the one watching the clouds pass. Worry thrives in secrecy, in noise, in constant motion. But it weakens in observation, in stillness, in light. So take inventory, audit the noise. You might just find that what once felt overwhelming is, in truth, something you've already survived many times over. And with that knowing comes a quiet confidence. If I've faced this story before and I'm still here, then maybe I don't need to listen to it quite so closely this time. Some worries feel enormous, not because they are, but because we're standing too close to them. Like holding a pebble directly in front of your eye, anything can block the view if you're close enough. But take a single step back, and you see it for what it truly is. Small, manageable, not defining. The 5-5-5 rule is a quiet way of regaining perspective. Will this matter in 5 hours? Will it still matter in 5 days? What about 5 years from now? These aren't magic numbers. They're mental lenses, widening your view, softening your grip, restoring proportion. Because when you ask these questions sincerely, something shifts. The lukewarm coffee, the awkward email, the comment that lingered, they shrink. They return to their rightful place, background noise, not the headline. This is not about dismissing pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about emotional zoning, choosing how much space each moment deserves in your inner world. We've all given minor inconveniences main character energy. Meanwhile, the deeper, beautiful parts of life, connection, creativity, quiet joy, are pushed to the side like extras. Sometimes the reframe is simple. This feels big. But is it big? Or just close? Try this the next time worry takes hold. Pause. Ask, will I remember this in 5 years? If not, allow it to pass. If yes, consider how you can meet it with intention, not intensity. Perspective doesn't solve everything, but it does make space. And in that space, you can breathe again. Not because the problem disappeared, but because you stepped back far enough to see it clearly. Worry thrives in unstructured space. It slips into quiet moments, interrupts rest, hijacks focus. Not because the problems are urgent, but because worry has no boundaries. It shows up whenever it wants. Uninvited, unchecked. But what if you gave it a time slot? Scheduled worry time is exactly what it sounds like. You choose a small window each day, 10 minutes, 15 at most, and allow yourself to worry intentionally. Write down what's on your mind. Let it all surface. You can pace, talk to yourself, journal, whatever helps release the noise. But when the time is up, it's up. The door closes. At first, your mind will resist. It'll whisper, but what if this one's urgent? It rarely is, because most of what masquerades as urgency is just unfiltered emotion looking for an outlet. By setting boundaries, you give your nervous system a clear signal. We can feel this, just not all day. And something beautiful happens. When you limit worry's access, it becomes more efficient. You stop spiraling over every passing thought. You begin to reclaim your mental landscape for things that actually nourish you: focus, connection, stillness. Try it for a few days. Schedule your worry time early, not before bed, not during work. Make it part of your routine, like brushing your teeth. Clean out the anxious residue. Then carry on, lighter. This isn't avoidance, it's containment. A loving boundary between your peace and your patterns. Because peace doesn't require the absence of worry. It simply asks that worry knock before entering, and that you reserve your best hours for living. There's a difference between thinking about life and living it. Your mind is excellent at building mental models, rehearsing, planning, predicting. But at some point, that rehearsal becomes rumination. You're no longer preparing, you're looping. And the more you loop, the more distant action feels. We confuse thinking with doing. But a thought, no matter how brilliant, doesn't move you forward. Only action does. You can spend hours analyzing a difficult conversation. Or you can have it, gently, honestly. You can endlessly replay what might go wrong. Or you can take the first small step, with humility and presence. The truth is, many of your worries don't need more reflection. They need movement. Because once you act, the terrain changes. The monster in your mind shrinks under the light of momentum. Try this. The next time you feel trapped in your thoughts, ask yourself, what is the smallest action I can take right now? One that moves me forward, even by an inch? And then take it. Not to fix everything. Not to guarantee success. But to break the trance of overthinking. Action isn't just about progress, it's about liberation. It reclaims agency. It restores rhythm. It reminds your nervous system, we're not stuck, we're moving. And through motion, even slow and imperfect, you begin to build a quiet confidence. Not because you always know the outcome, but because you've learned to meet life as it comes, with presence and courage. Worry asks, what if? Action answers, let's see. And in that answer, life begins again.